Okay, now how do you support them? You put base down, which you can put lead weights on the back of, and it looks like molding from the front.
So is this the way they would build their sets?
I said this is what they should do.
Okay.
This is what they should do instead of taping them together. Now, so here's what I build them to illustrate. You know, here's a bunch of panels. You know, you set up your room. You lay out your different.
Nice.
You know,
oh, wow.
And then you come along and you put your panels into the bases.
Yeah.
And then you have a top cove piece that would, well, he's going to fall apart because it's so old, but you would join two panels together, you know, and you just build your room. But you start out with nothing and you just keep building according to the plan, and you end up with the system. And this was just a breakaway wall, or you put in Windows, you'd put the blue panel in it. I always pull this stuff out and then I never put it back. You have a wall unit with a chroma key. He thought it was cool. He thought, oh, we should sell it or get somebody to do it. But you know, I'm lucky I got this back. Because I was designing a set for him at one point, and I was I made the chair for the illustration of it. But
now I see something else. That right there, I know exactly what that is.
That was the animation model I made for the gastronaut, the certain gastronaut.
That is very cool.
I built the full scale guy, and this is the only one I got to keep.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Can I hold it?
Yeah. It was designed. You see, I'm like, I says, could you give me a photo of the gas station you're going to, so I can make it match? No. And I'm like, look, you know, this is going to look so hokey because the feet are going to be sticking out.
Right.
What am I going to do? And I'm like, oh no, they're elevated on this cement platform, so that's going to make it even worse. The feet are going to be sticking way out. I'm like, wait a minute, if I divide the cement platform into two pieces, there you got the feet.
Yeah.
So I designed the thing with rollers in the feet so that Little John didn't have to lift this thing and just roll down.
Little John actually was inside the suit.
He was inside the suit.
Yeah.
But Chuck waited till winter.
Yeah.
I'm waiting. Oh, snow fell, so we're not going to do the skit now, right? So winter comes, he takes him to a park and makes him climb a hill, a snowy hillside. But this thing weighted so much.
Oh, wow.
Little John's just such an athlete. You know,
that is very, very, very cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
City of Dalton. I was working as a police dispatcher. In my spare time, I designed them a police fire station.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I always went to extremes. Like, I think there's a toilet in there with the commode in there. And,
very detailed.
you know, there's an opening for the food to go through and into the thing.
Yeah.
This was the first little concept for it, and then I cleaned it up to, you know, have all the blueprints of it and everything.
People still make things like this, right? Still miniatures, or there's all this CAD and the design on
now
computer.
You can. Yeah. Now you grow them in a tank.
Yeah.
You do the 3D.
Oh yeah,
prints.
that's true too. Yeah. Well,
so that's gone.
The evolution of it, but I mean, is this something that you think is cool, or do you think doing this type of thing, cutting it out, noodling it all?
Oh, it's a pain.
It's kind of the same though, right?
It's a pain. It's you know, everybody says, "Oh, that must be so fun," and it's like, no, getting it done is fun.
Right.
Getting it done is fun.
And how did you start? Like, how did you start working with Big Chuck and Little John, doing making stuff for them? Like, what started all that?
Okay, as a 8-year-old or whatever, I'd send in the pictures. You know, send in something for the show, but mainly I saw Chuck and John at a basketball game, and I always thought from the skits that the Hoolihan Bob was klutzy. Mr. Klutz, right? and Chuck was the athlete, and Hoolihan's the brains, Chuck's the dumb Polish person, and you know, I'm like, I'm seeing Bob move up and down the court, and he's athletic and graceful. I'm like, oh, that's a bum rap, you know, kind of thing. And so then he was signing autographs, and kids were leaning from the bleachers onto him, full weight, and he's sweating, and he's still. So I wrote him a letter, and I don't know what he what it said, because we didn't have Xeroxes back then. And a lot of the stuff, I learned to put carbon paper behind anything I
copies,
wrote. That's
yeah.
how I copied it. But after about 3 months, Bob wrote me back a really nice letter.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'd show it to people at school. Look, he wrote. Oh no, he would have had one of his undersecretaries, do this or whatever. He wouldn't have written to you. And I reciprocated by sending him some artwork. And then Chuck's left out, so I did a picture. I said, "What would you like from me?" He says, "A drawing of my dog." And I'm like, "I've never drawn a dog before."
Oh, yeah, he loved his dogs.
Oh, he.
Was this
Rowdy.
King? Rowdy, the other one,
Rowdy.
the
So
earlier one, yeah.
I said, "Well, I need a picture," and I was like, and we had off school because school ran out of money, so they shut for 2-3 months over winter, and then we had to go back 6 days a week once the funding started at the beginning of the year. So I'm like, I've got this period of time, Chuck. If you can get me those photos, get me those photos. I'm like, you can only have them for a week because these were my prize. So photos don't come. Another basketball game just before school's supposed to resume 6 days a week, and I'm like, I don't even think I'm going to talk to these guys. So I go up to Chuck. He says, "Hey, I got the photos." I'm like, "Well, I'm a little late. I don't have really a lot of time, but I'll see what I can do." He says, "Well, you got a week." And he brings out these photos, and they got holes in them, and they're just not taken care of very well at all. But I go home, and I'm like, couldn't sleep, and I sketch up some stuff for him, put it in a mailing tube, and send it off to him.
Aww.
And a few days later, just rough stuff.
Yeah.
And a few days later, my mom says, "Hey, Chuck Shadowski's on the phone for you." I'm like, "Yeah, right. Yeah,
Wow.
right." And I get on the phone, and he's like, "Oh, David, I didn't know you were any good. I didn't know you were any good. Keep the photos as long as you want." He was like a member of the family. "Oh, which one? Which one?" Like, "Oh, I care about that dog, meant everything to me." So
Aww.
I did the photos for him, and then they did Rowdy Night with the pictures.
Right.
But when I went up, I was invited up for Rowdy Night, and I look, and there's holes in all the pictures. I'm like, "What happened here?" He says, "Well, he let him on the floor, and the dogs walked over."
Oh, jeez.
Isn't there dogs walked all over the thing? But it's like,
That's
I don't
neat.
even know.
So
I was working on a new set design kind of for Big Chuck and
Oh wow.
Hoolihan.
Wow.
Oh, look at that.
And I was starting it, and that was about the time that Hooli left. But I was going to do a big portrait that would be behind them and hanging from the ceiling in like blue tones, so that they could zoom into it, chroma key into it, and then go to the photos and stuff from.
Oh
I
wow.
was like,
Very cool.
Oh, that's
working
a
on
neat drawing.
some stuff like that. And then Chuck said, no, having those wires hanging down and hooking up to it every week, that's, we can't do that stuff. Well, they ended up doing it for Big Chuck and Little John. They did BC and LJ,
yeah.
and they hung it, so after telling me it wasn't much. But I would do like parody stuff, like I did Big John and Little Chuck.
That
never
is great.
I love it.
Nobody. Best reaction I got to that, because nobody
That's
ever really
cute.
cared for that kind of stuff. But
I'm going to just go ahead and ask if we could have a copy of that. Just one
I think
of them.
I could spare about 10.
Oh my goodness.
Just one would
You'll
be
have
fine.
to sign it for us too.
One would be fine.
That's too cool.
That would be awesome.
But
Oh
just
my
Carl
god.
Hendricks asked
Wow.
me, I felt it was my job to watch these shows every week to keep track of when they used my stuff. So I had,
great.
Oh, you took notes and everything.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's why I really, a lot of these shows I can't watch easily anymore, because I've seen these movies 15, 20 times each.
Yeah, you probably have each movie memorized.
Yeah. But this is really sad. Is that I said at one point to Chuck, it's like, "Hey, Little House of Horrors, I would love to do, really tie the show in to the movie. I will make you these clamshells, a small one, progressively bigger.
Yeah.
You get a plant, and I will have it eventually consume the whole
The set, yeah.
and maybe even the building. And we'll put it out in the back we'll put it with my TV8 model in the back, being bigger than the building and everything. You can do that." And Chuck says, "Sure." So I started making it. Oh man, that was, I don't even understand the math I did for this. I don't have anything more detailed.
So you did the Audrey Jr. plant growing and growing.
I didn't have any time to do all this stuff. And I even had, ideas on how each break would go and stuff.
Wow.
And how many times did you feed the plant? And it's like 4 times,
Yeah, fingers are missing. Yeah.
And
nice.
I had it consuming everything. Like I had this thumb-sucking bear that I'd set them that used to always sit on their set way back when, and it would be getting eaten. So I'm like making this stuff. I'm like, how could he trust me? It's like he's not got this a week early. He's going to have it that day, and I'm not going to get all the shells done. I was like lining it with loops of toilet paper on the inside. And
yeah.
Come on, and I had no, and people had not. I didn't drive at the time, and people would stand me up, and I like couldn't get this stuff off.
Yeah.
So I got it there, and they did the show, and so it related to the whole thing. Got it done. There was some real stupidity going on with it. The guy cut a slit too long in the blue paper to go through, so they cut it bigger and tape it more rather than just rolling it down or something. Like I'm trying to tell these guys, but they're union guys, and
they don't care.
So the thing's done. VCRs were not, you had to be pretty rich or never even heard of them. And 2 weeks later, because it was the breaks of the show, a race over, because that's nothing. It's like, what? All that for one night.
Wow.
Right, and they never repeated. Everything was just sort of every show was a new show. They never did repeats.
And that's why it's so important that, we're always on the lookout for stuff taped on the
Yeah, Dave Little.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for Dave Little, he would have had all these tapes that he couldn't translate. But he saved the equipment so that, Chuck would have nothing.
But there's nothing on that show that you do. So they actually went ahead and used your plant stuff.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
but there's no photographs, no film.
Oh, my
gosh.
There's nothing.
Oh.
There's nothing.
That is a darn shame.
I've got the address somewhere, but, I mean, they would give me this. All they do was give me photos to work from. I mean, most of it had to be returned.
Yeah.
Wow.
Those are great. I've never seen those.
Well, I've scanned most of them in. I post them on Facebook.
Yeah, those are awesome.
Ann Mulligan. I just saw there was a Christmas video somebody posted with Ann Mulligan and Mike Keene. They did a show called Noontime that Chuck directed, and I was doing artwork for them and stuff.
This is fantastic. You got a pretty decent collection.
So this is kind of neat. This guy was a radio dude, and one time he did a basketball thing, Big Chuck and Little. I don't know if it's Little John or Hoolihan at that time. And he was complaining later. He says, we went out there and played this game for charity, played our hearts out. At the end, I saw them handing cash to Chuck. We did it for charity. This was for charity. How dare he do this? I'm like, okay, Bob. Do you think you're going to do this again? Well, maybe we'll do it again. He says, how about next week? Well, I don't know about next week. How about 25 times a year? It's like, how about getting your friends together 25 times a year and going out and doing this? It's like, and not asking them, compensating them anything for their gasoline or their time, or not even getting together and buying them a sandwich or a drink afterwards. How about that? Are you going to keep it up for 25 years, 30 years? Or are you going to do this 20, half? I don't think so. It's like, so for Chuck to get some money to take everybody out for a sandwich and a drink afterwards, I was like, the charity's still getting plenty.
Sure.
And they're continuing it. They could not continue or sustain.
Right.
Without
now
that.
Where are those little...
you see, when they went to Big Chuck and Little John, so I'm doing Big Chuck and Little John, the new look. So I was trying to come up with a logo, because I'd done a logo for Big Chuck and Little, or for Hoolihan and Big Chuck, just as they were concluding, So I'm like, what would I do for Chuck and John? I'm like,
do you get it?
If you zoomed in,
do you get this? What's going on here?
If you zoomed in the picture,
let her say.
Well, the one looks like a butt.
Well, but sort of a butt chin.
Chuck said this is,
and it's top of John's
this
head.
is
okay.
The sun and the moon is what Chuck said.
Funny.
It was the sun and the moon. But I says when you zoom in, all you get to try and do a close up, you get his chin.
It's brilliant.
Yeah, that's
so that
great.
was my. That didn't go anywhere.
I love it.
They did the caricature.
So they never used that.
No. But I did get him an autograph.
But they signed it. Aw.
Yeah. It didn't really
What was
tell
that
you
one panel of stuff where they had like Xeroxes of Chuck or Hoolihan?
Well,
and Big
these were
Chuck?
like proofs for.
Proofs.
These were some proofs for possible postcards because they had a little mimeograph. They crank out the cards.
Oh, dude,
There.
this is crazy. I would like
What a
to.
mess I'm making.
I'm trying to get a lot of photographs of that original of the Hoolihan and Big Chuck. I would love to recreate that set.
Well, I did in the stuff somewhere. I tried to go through everything I was giving you, but I got a box somewhere that has some photos in it for you.
Oh.
I was finally going to get to meet Tim Conway because they always promised me I'd get to meet Tim Conway, and I went up to this induction into the Hall of Fame. Well, Tim Conway got a chance to get a paid gig that night, so he didn't show up.
Yeah.
And but I'd taken all these photos of the models I built up to him, and see, my dad was a photographer in the family, and I wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
And I would always rely on him to photograph my stuff, and he would considered himself. He took some courses and stuff, and decided he was going to. He would take things out and hang them on the clothesline. He would take stuff out, hang it on the clothesline, dig it a photo, and there'd be a shadow of a tree over it.
Right.
You know, he would just not. It would just be junk.
Awesome.
I mean, it's not like it.
I got it.
It's not like you do today, where
Everything's
the
digital
fonts,
now,
yeah.
and
There's a certain ethnic center 8. You know, I had to lay out each letter. I did font, font center 8. I come out with each letter, and then have to do it and then ink it. And that's kind of the thing too. Is do you do it large? It's going to be seen smaller. You shrink it down. Any little hand waver or whatever gets shrunk.
Right.
So it minimizes it, and that's why the difference between me making a model for Chuck and me making a model for a movie is a movie. It would be huge. It would be made. Every little mistake would be made huge, and on a TV screen, the mistakes get minimized and it looks sharper. So, but
those are cool
These
drawings.
are the old the copy, right? The
I
mimeograph.
tried blueprinting.
Yeah.
I tried. Somebody said take blueprint paper and shine a projected image on it.
Oh yeah.
Just like the way I used to sketch stuff up.
I love it. I look
You know
at that. How cool is that? And so that was an enlargement of this. This is
Yeah,
what that
kind
would
of.
be like in scale.
I was just working on it, and then when I saw it was going nowhere, I just would drop it.
How cool.
That's how I used to, just do sketches. Kind of the story. Every week, I'd wait for them to announce, what's the movie next week?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, got to do a drawing. Now, I don't know how I did this because I cannot remember for the life of me, before Internet Movie Database, IMDb,
How you referenced it, yeah.
How do you find the images? Did I go to the local library? Did I have to just entirely remember it from my memory? I'd have to know the movie enough to, okay, I do a quick, how long can I spend on this so that Monday morning I can get it in the mail to maybe get it there Friday for 3 seconds on the air at the end. It might be at the movie segment if it was good enough.
Where would they hang it up on the
They'd
the
hang
wall
it,
when
they
they
tack
play?
them up, and at the end of the thing, zoom, 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 you get it's seen 3 seconds.
Right.
I'm like, every week I'm making this investment, 3 seconds, 3 seconds, 3 seconds, payoff. What if I sat down and worked for 40 hours, 50 hours, 60 hours, never imagined 200 hours building the TV-8 model?
Right.
What could I build that would be on the set forever?
Right.
What could I come up with a bunch of skits for a prop so that I would see that prop again and again and again?
Now, from high atop the Television 8 building, in the best location in the nation, on the shores of beautiful Lake Erie, it's the Big Chuck and Little John Show.
Here we go again.
I came up with, I was going to architecture school, and I was so frustrated that we were doing concept stuff that had nothing to do with the building. And Chuck was they were all moving. TV8 was moving to the new building, and I was more of a relationship with Bob at that time. So I write, Bob, I got ideas for skits for opening your show. You're losing the show. You're losing the monkey coming on top. You know, the iconic stuff. You don't want to lose it all. You're going to need a new opening. I've written a few things to go with the new building, and I could build you a model of the new building. And he's like, oh, I love the old building.
The store broadcast.
I love the old building,
That
the brick downtown House Square. I'd want that one. I'm like, well, I was kind of looking to do one that relates to the show. He says, okay. So I raised it with Chuck. It's like, if you want to. So I was working 100 hours a week in schoolwork, and architecture school we had 80-hour days. You get up, and 80 hours later, you'd be able to go to sleep again. You were so numb that you'd be building models and cutting yourself and not noticing because you couldn't feel anymore. So I had 3 weeks off. Again, Chuck, could you send me some photos of the new building? I'll be home for 3 weeks. Get home, no photos. After about a week, these photos show up. The building's under construction. It's not complete. They're not good photos. Says, oh, well, my brother was home from college. He said he'd drive me up. So we go up there. I'm going to do some sketches, take some measurements, and I get up there, and first off, Chuck doesn't know who I am. He's trying to place me. You know, it's like, I couldn't even remember who I was. But I go out there, winter, Cleveland, off of Lake Erie.
Yeah.
Frostbite time. You know, I didn't spend much time out there. But I got home, and I didn't sleep much. And my dad didn't come and take pictures as we were working and stuff. And he finally, after I'd been up like 50 hours once, I'm like biting my lip and stuff, and he comes in and snaps a picture of me working on it, and what I call my high-tech studio, which was a card table in front of a bed. You know, so I'd had a friend who arranged he was going to take it up, the model up, when I go up with him. And he called, that wasn't this week, was it? And I'm like, oh, you know. And I'm working to get it done. I finally get it done, and I haven't slept. And my dad says, we'll go in the car. And I had to prop it vertically in the back, on the bump. You know, the bump between, you know, that's something new people want.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I was on one side, and I fell asleep. And here's the thing with the tower and everything just goes to the side. And I mean, it had, the hardest thing were these light fixtures for the parking lots were just these 8x8 balsa with little lights suspended on them. And some of those broke in the process. I'm fixing them up, but they made me carry the thing all around the studio because nobody wanted to touch it. And I'm tired, and I'm trying not to bang into walls and everything. But I get there, and I give them put down the model, and Chuck and Bob come in, and like, whoa. And so my dad did get a good picture of them squatting in, looking at the picture, and Bob's like,
yeah,
this thing isn't accurate anymore. We had a Christmas party, and he named the guy, took his car and ran it up one of the berms in front of the building, and he says, we need some tire tracks going up through here. But so they're laughing about that in the picture. So it was a good snap picture.
You posted that photo.
Yeah,
it's
and
a cool photo.
Yeah, and I think I got a copy for you, but yeah, and
very cool.
Bob gave me the picture,
focus.
black and white picture of the old building, a little picture
So you have
that I
those?
couldn't even keep, you know. But I'm like, I don't even know the color red because there's a lot of different colors of brick. And then my eye focuses ironwork balcony. How do you do an ironwork balcony in miniature? And all the bricks and all the molding. So that thing took me 300 hours.
Wow.
And I hand drew the bricks, red paper with white ink, all the bricks all over the windows, 3 days, and then I go to glue it on with Elmer's glue. And the paper starts stretching, so it's not going to align anymore. So I'm working fast and furious to save myself the 3 days' work.
Does Chuck have that model still, do you think?
He has that.
Yeah, and
it's pretty washed out. I haven't taken care of it too well.
Yeah.
But it was supposed to be for Bob, and I'm like, don't ever tell Chuck you did this, because I'm not making another one of these things.
Wow.
Because I would stack up balsa to try and make the molding, and it would just look awful. And I'd take the paint, and I just spray that sucker, and then, oh, this looks just like molding. And then an air bubble would appear, and zip,
Yeah.
It'd be gone, and scrape the paint off again.
Jeez.
Gone again.
Wow. So detailed.
But you love the show so much that it drove you. I mean, I've had similar experiences. I'll tell you about those later. But yeah, it's like that show was so powerful
that it inspired a lot of local people, to
talented,
send
artists
them art.
and whatnot
Yeah.
I really do like
to pitch in and
7 miles high over Cleveland.
That was what's his name's? That's
I've seen this artwork before too on something they've used.
Mm-hmm. It looks familiar.
Yeah, 7 Miles High was better.
Yeah, I've seen this.
Yeah,
I've seen
that's
before
cool.
on something. Was this used for stuff that they?
No, I just.
Why does it look so familiar?
7 Miles High was. Herb Thomas had a rock group or something. So
Really?
I did that for him.
Oh, it's Soul
I don't
Man.
know that he ever used it. Yeah, and I did some. Chuck was going to do a thing called Double O Soul, which is like Soul Man.
With James Bond.
1, 2, 3.
3v8.
Yeah, 3v8, 6v8, 7v8.
I know you have all these ideas,
Right.
but how to execute it all?
Well, I saw this guy named Tom Baker was selling animation models.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked at these things, and man, were they detailed.
Was it? Not Rick Baker.
Tom Baker is
Baker.
some guy worked out of his garage. And they were like $250 or $170, which isn't much for a steel armature. These things were exacting. And I had no money for it, so like $37 for an animation model, $20.
Now those things are very expensive.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, when I finally had money, and I called, well, no way, I don't do that no more. I'm not that stupid.
That's
I
cool.
keep
You
doing
saved that little mail-order brochure thing.
I couldn't convince Chuck to,
Now, you said your dad took photos when
Yeah,
you
he
were
would
at the studio?
Well,
Do you
he took
still
that.
have the
He took that
photos?
one. Just
Yeah, the one
that
of
I
them
have.
crouching by the
You
model.
can have that. That's the letter that Bob wrote me that started it all. So being
Oh,
nice
wow.
to people can pay off. Not brushing someone off.
Yeah, and I mean, we have experience with our own show. People sending us stuff, and I mean, it's just like, yeah, that's really cool. Thank you. I mean, it's like it is an interesting to have done that, and now having it done, for something that we're putting together. It's like it takes on a life of its own.
It really does.
Yeah, people get really into it.
And that's
I mean,
cool.
even with our little YouTube channel, there's a lot of artists that like to send in things.
They do, yeah.
I did, for a while, I was having song parodies come to mind. Like I did Proud Mary, I did Proud Cleveland about the Chuck show.
Yeah, Cleveland cared a lot, especially about Ghoulardi, but definitely about Chuck and John. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, they were on TV
And
for
Hoolihan,
such a long
yeah.
time. I mean, technically, they're still on TV.
Original layouts
For the model, wow.
Yeah.
So you built the TV, the new building, and the old store building.
Yeah.
Yeah, you did scale.
You built models for those.
And they used that model for the animation, right? That was used.
Well,
was that the
the
same?
original animation. Once the new guy came in and started animating, my stuff was gone. That
Right,
was the
but
end of
that Big Chuck and Little John opening, that's your building that he's on top of and rolls
who
around.
knows? I don't know that they would have been able to. I'll give you one of these cards, but I think I got the pictures upstairs for you.
Oh wow!
But
Wow.
Oh wow! Just the whole building, yeah. Yeah, some of these were he put up on Facebook as well.
That's cool.
the original. Chuck told me what the opening was going to be, and it was a whole year before the animated one came after they got the model. I was waiting to get my friends. Oh, here's the thing. College. I'm in college. Most of the people from out of the area, so they don't know what this is. So one of my friends says, I want to find out what this Big Chuck and Hoolihan show is, because my sister sells commercial time in the Cleveland area, and nighttime, no dollars, no money for the ads, except Friday night at 11:30, they get top dollar for this notch of time, and what the heck's that? Worked out real neat when I internally lit it. His dad had that off-base picture of the set, the old set with all the movie posters and Hoolihan in there, and the teleprompter guy sitting there. And it was like framed kind of strange, but I could put it on a shelf inside there.
So you could see it, yeah.
Yeah, when it lit up, you could look in and see him in there.
That's really cool, yeah.
How cool.
I remember, yeah.
Going through it. I wanted them, when I got into designing bookmobiles, I wanted them to do a Big Chuck and Little John. I said, rather than renting buses every week, that they could, you know, do a bus. No interest. A reason for everything.
As an homage to the old building.
Eventually it became, you know, here's where we finished decorating the
That's funny.
Have a King Kong inflatable
home
up there.
at last, you know.
That would be
the
neat.
other one I did was how I would have designed the building if I was designing it. And I had no idea that they're coming up with, I thought at first you could put posters in each of the windows to represent a show.
That'd be crazy.
And the tower was there, so it looked like an old style TV with the antenna next to it.
Yeah.
And
well, you're a forward thinker, because isn't the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame supposed to be a big record player?
Oh.
With the stylus and the
I think
turntable?
that's called like duck architecture or something.
Yeah. Who did this? IMP did that? Did he design?
I don't recall right now.
Whoever designed.
He did something, but maybe he's adding on to it.
Well, yeah, but definitely from an overhead view, it's supposed to look like a turntable with a stylus.
Right.
So you were ahead of your time here with this.
But I didn't have any idea that they can now make images that big.
Yeah. Well, you're thinking big.
Probably a lot of people would have died. From people driving by. I mean, that's a bad enough road anyway, and people looking over. Especially it was actually moving picture.
One of those postcards somewhere.
Oh, these are cool.
Yeah.
I think I got some of these photos upstairs.
It's always interesting too to like in the wild, the stuff as popular as they were, it doesn't pop up often.
So I just want to thank you for the stories. We love hearing about the history behind some of the things involved with Big Chuck and Little John, and thank you for watching our little YouTube channel.
Enjoy it.
It's great. It's like surreal that we're standing here with the guy that made the model of the buildings.
And anything you'd like to say to sum it all up?
No, it's just a long time ago. Can't believe it's 48 years now. We're going on 50 years from when they moved into that building on the lake. Hard to believe.
Thank you, David.
Thank you again.
Thank you.